Well, there's some persons attending this evening that weren't with us yesterday. So I'll attempt to do a little review, but not super review, just modest review. We're going to be discussing text 42 from Canto 7, Chapter 9. Now, what we discussed yesterday was Chapter 9 follows Chapter 8. And Chapter 8 is, a lot of feisty activity. Some of it's verbal, and some of it is not verbal. It's, the attempt made by if you want to go outside, you can go outside. If you want to be inside, stay inside. But make up your mind. There he goes. Okay, he made up his mind. Till he makes up his mind otherwise. Let's see what happens. Well, I'll step back a little bit. Once upon a time, more than 5 decades ago, I was a new devotee. And when this is the summer of 1970, a few years ago, summer of 1970, the main literature that we had, the main activity that we did was Harinam Sankirtan and Prasadam distribution. Book distribution. And our book distribution primarily was giving people an invitation to the temple and encouraging them to take it back to Godhead magazine, take a donation. This was Boston, summer 1970. And while I was there that particular summer, Srila Prabhupada, it was published was Nectar of Devotion. So in the morning we had the Bhagavatam class, evening Bhagavad Gita class, daytime go out in Harinam and book distribution. But then when Nectar Devotion was published, after Harinam came back from lunch, for lunch, after lunch we had Nectar Devotion class every day in the temple room. And in the course of those 3 classes, I started hearing about Prahlada Maharaj. And very quickly, Prahlada Maharaj became a hero, and still is, for many reasons. And during that particular summer, because Prabhupada was conducting a worldwide organization and expanding, but also doing his translation work, and it was decided that a little blue-covered publication, like half the size of Back to Godhead magazine, became another literature that we could distribute, along with Back to Godhead magazine. And I was thrilled because he was a hero. For me, he was a personal hero for me. So I was more inclined to distribute Back to Godhead than distributing Back to Godhead magazines was the Prahlada Maharaj, little teachings of Prahlada Maharaj, teachings to his classmates. Prabhupada's lectures on that section of the Bhagavatam, transcribed and then made into a publication. So he's always been a person that I look up to. So each year when it comes time for Nrsimha Chaturdasi, guess what? I really like the chapters, particularly these two teachings to his classmates, chapter 6, and prayers, along with the story, but the philosophical sections is that these prayers to Lord Nrsingadev. For multiple reasons, he covers so much territory because he's one of our Mahajans. This is all background before text 42. So after chapter 6 is he's teaching to his classmates. And at the end of the chapter, his classmates, he addresses them, "O sons of the demons." But they really like Prahlad. And they're not polluted so much. They don't object. They really like him. They look up to him. He's the same age, but he's Prahlad Maharaj. And at the end, they're dancing and chanting. It's such a yuga. But, chanting and dancing was allowed during such a yuga. And they're children. So instead of doing what they wanted to do, which was play, they're chanting and dancing. And while they're chanting and dancing, Shanda and Amarka come in. What? They panicked. They panicked because, going back to chapter 5, Prahlad was speaking to his father, Vishnu Bhakti. And Hiranyakashipu was really upset. And Shanda and Amarka said, "Don't worry, he's just a little boy. We'll work him over. We have an Asura Kula school to teach little boys how to become good asuras. So we'll work him over, don't worry. It's just a little boy, don't worry about it." So they're in school. And then they had, Prabhupada calls it tiffin hour. You're from India, so you know what tiffin hour is. Lunchtime. So they were absent from the classroom. The boys were still there. And they wanted to play, and he said no. Then he gave us all his teachings. And then at the end, they're up and chanting. So then there's 7 and 8. 7 and 8 are action-filled. Shanda and Amarka, went and immediately told Hiranyakashipu, "Guess what your son just did?" So Hiranyakashipu decides he should be killed. Not a nice guy. Kill his son. And he tried this and that and the other thing and the other thing and the other thing, and nothing worked. And then, since it didn't work, he asked Prahlad, "Where are you getting your power from?" There's a very fantastic discussion between him and his father. He scolds his father. I get my power from the same place you do, from Vishnu. Oh, Vishnu. It's, the story. We'll hear it some more on Nrsinga Chaturdasi Day. And then the scene where he says, where is Vishnu? He's everywhere. He's everywhere. Is he in this pillar? Prabhupada said, Lord Nrsingadev peeked around the pillar and gave him a Hari Bol and said, yeah, he's everywhere. He's in the pillar. So with his fist or with his sword, he smashed the pillar, and Lord Nrsingadev came out of the pillar. And then he finished. Many things happened. He played with him first, but then he finished. And after he finished Hiranyakashipu, there was all of his soldiers and followers, and they tried to attack Lord Nrsingadev. That was a big mistake. And so it's a big bloody mess all over the place. And he was roaring and still roaring. You know the story. Roaring, and the demigods tried to pacify him. They doesn't give their prayers, but it says they streams of eloquent prayers. He's roaring and roaring, and he's angry. Goddess of fortune, she doesn't want to go forward. She's afraid of this Lord Vishnu feature. So Brahma asked Prahlada to come forward. Then that's how chapter 9 begins. He's offering his prayers. So we got up to verse 42. And just yesterday, I reviewed, because before coming here, I was in Virginia, and we covered up to verse 38, 37. So I did a little review, 34 to 37. And he's a little boy, but he's describing Lord Brahma's direct experience of Mahavishnu, or Garbhodakshay Vishnu. And it gives details, so, not all the details that are found in the third canto, but details and details of his experience. And Lord Vishnu being satisfied, 100 celestial years, which is a long time, 100 celestial years of tapa. And the Lord Vishnu showed himself being pleased with Lord Brahma. And then he goes on to describe further exchanges with Lord Vishnu, but in another feature. So Prahlad, has an understanding that Vishnu is not just the four-armed Vishnu, he's all the incarnations. So, for example, Hayagriva's name is mentioned. Hayagriva, his name is mentioned as one of the avatars of Lord Nrsingadev, or of Lord Vishnu. And Hayagriva, prior in the Yuga cycle period of time, he annihilated Madhu and Kaitava. So that's Madhusudana is one of the names of Vishnu, Madhusudana. It's because they tried to steal the Vedas, and he stopped them from stealing the Vedas, finished them, and then gave the Vedas to Brahma. That's described. So Brahma has seen Lord Vishnu. He now has the Vedas. He then describes, this is in Prahlad's prayers, he has an experience of the Virat Rupa, because he has to build the universe. That's his service. He has to know what one looks like. So he gets a blueprint. And the blueprint is the Virat Rupa. It doesn't say it quite like that, but that's what the description is. And then he builds the universe. And then yesterday, after describing Brahma, his attaining what he attained, he then speaks words of humility about himself. Remember, Lord Brahma is the one that asked him to speak. Lord Brahma already tried to pacify the Lord, but Brahma said, because he appeared for you, then you try. And like the painting, he placed his hand on his head and he spoke these wonderful prayers. So the verses we covered yesterday, briefly, expressions of humility, which is a symptom of an elevated Vaishnava, because an elevated Vaishnava is, on the one hand, highly qualified, and the other hand, abjectly humble. He's not thinking of himself as some special personality. I'm wary of little children because they suddenly do things but he's in good care. Your daughter and your son? Neighbor, okay. The girl's taking care of the little boy. That's nice. Instinctually. Humility and is a qualification of an elevated person. Say it the other way. If someone is very qualified and they're very proud of being very qualified, that's a disqualification. That's not a qualified person. And it's easy. Super easy. You get qualified. It's one of the statements that Prahlada makes in chapter 10, with the end of his prayers in chapter 9. Lord Nrsingadev said, "You please me very much. Please take benediction." And Prahlada says, "No. Please don't tempt me like this. I saw my father. He had everything. Just by raising his eyebrows, the demigods would tremble in fear. And all of that was taken from him in the flesh. So, thanks, but no thanks. But there is something I want. There's something I want, unalloyed devotion to you. And the association with elevated Vaishnavas, like Narada Muni, from whom I've received whatever bhakti I have. Please, those two things. Now, it's a little unclear from his prayers how much he understood the big picture. The big picture meaning something that comes in Canto in Canto 7, Chapter 10. He says to Lord Nrsingadev, "You sent me here to teach the way of pure devotional service." And in the purport, Prabhupada indicates he came from Vaikuntha. Now, we heard yesterday evening, there's other versions where he came from before he was Prahlada in the womb of his mother, Kayadu. Who was he? How did he become so exalted? We heard a different description, but in chapter 10, which means the different days of Brahma, he was sent. He was a Nityasiddha devotee, sent from the spiritual world to come to this world to teach the way of pure devotional service. And that's what he did. So at pure devotional service, back to what we discussed yesterday, humility, super qualification, complete affinity for the pure devotee Narada and others like him, wanting to Mahatsevam Dwara Mahor Vimuktes, just wanting to be in service and in the association of such persons, not wanting anything material, but thinking of himself the opposite. I have attraction for this and that and the other thing. It's his humility. We should be clear. The words of an elevated person may speak of themselves in deprecating ways. They're not like a low self-esteem person. They don't have that problem. Some people have that problem. And then it's, head hanging low, and they become depressed, and I'm no good, and it's hopeless, I'm a hopeless case, and it's, sad and morose and depressed. That's not, an elevated Vaishnava doesn't think highly of themselves. Here's a very nice example. This isn't the Bhagavatam, it's Chaitanya Charitamrita. Looking around the room, are there persons here in the room that are kind of new, like super new, and you don't know who is Lord Chaitanya, and you don't know what his biography, Chaitanya Charitamrita, is? You need a little introduction to that. Everybody's okay. Okay. So the author, it's seven. When Prabhupada translated, it was a 17-volume book. Sits on your bookshelf like this, and the author was one man. He was he had a title of Kavi Raj. Kavi means poet, and Raj means king. So he was a Kavi Raj. He was most learned amongst poets. From his childhood, he had that propensity. And aside from the details and details and details, he learned everything. His place of residence was Vrindavan, but he knew everything and everything about Lord Chaitanya. And how did he know? Because he's in Vrindavan, and Lord Chaitanya only spent short time in Vrindavan, so how does he know? The answer is he heard everything from one who was with Lord Chaitanya in Puri, and he had the diary of Murari Gupta. Murari Gupta is dear associate of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Navadvip, so he knew his childhood pastimes. You could say the first 24 years, and then the next 24 years. Everything in Puri, because he heard it from Raghunath Das Goswami. No, so it's really nice history, but I could get lost in the history and go back to the humility of Prahlad. The humility of Prahlad is like the humility of Krishna Das Kaviraj. Vastly learned. Raghunath Das Goswami spent most of his adult life in Puri under the care of Swarup Damodar, and completely detached from anything of this world, completely attached to Lord Chaitanya, and guided by Swarup Damodar. Who is Swarup Damodar? Swarup Damodar is in Krishna Lila. Swarup Damodar is Lalita. Lalita, Radha, Vishaka, and Lalita. So he was Lalita in Gaura Lila, Swarup Damodar. Even more intimate than Vishaka. Very, very intimate. In the same feisty mood. Left-wing gopi. So he, Swarup Damodar, understood everything about the inner feelings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the highest ecstasies of love, of Radha in separation from Krishna, and he knew the whole thing. He not only, he vastly learned it, he would sing songs that would augment the moods of Lord Chaitanya to enhance his mood. I mean, it's everything. He knew everything about all the pastimes, because at night, many times Lord Chaitanya would go to the sea, and Swarup Damodar and Ramananda Roy would be with him. It was a really nice description, but the point is, Swarup Damodar trained Raghunath so he would know everything too. And when Lord Chaitanya left this world, Raghunath Das decided he was going to leave the world too. He couldn't live without Lord Chaitanya. But Lord Chaitanya had given him a gift. Two gifts, besides love of God. He gave him a Govardhan Shila to worship, because he personally worshipped it, and a string of gunja berries, which is like little red berries, that he understood, Raghunath understood, Lord Chaitanya is giving me residence at Govardhan. He's giving me residence at Govardhan and the association of Srimati Radharani, because the gunja berries. He understood that was Lord Chaitanya's gift to him. So he was attached to Lord Chaitanya, and he left this world. So he went to Govardhan with the plan. He would take darshan of Govardhan Hill, meet Rupa and Sanatana Goswami in Vrindavan, then jump from Govardhan Hill and give up his life. His feelings of separation were too intense. But his mood was so transparent Rupa Goswami, when he met him, said, look, you can't do this. You can't get liberation by jumping off Govardhan Hill. I'm sorry, but, nice try, but that's not how it works. You have to serve the Vaishnavas. And we've been here in Vrindavan, and you've been there in Puri, associating with him day and night and night and day and night for years. And you know all about him because you heard from Sarup Damodar. So I give you an instruction every day, 3 to 4 hours every day. You sit under this tree at Radhakund, and you speak the message of Lord Chaitanya's pastimes in Puri that you learned from Sarup Damodar. And guess who was in the audience? Krishnadas. He heard A to Z, everything. And he's not just, a smart man. He's a Kaviraj, he's a learned poet. So as he got very, very, very old, the Vaishnavas loved him so much, they said, you got to write this down. You got to write this down because future generations, they won't know all this that you know and have realized. So they pleaded with him, and because he was so humble, he didn't want to do that service. But they kept, harassing him or, pleading with him. So he went to the Madan Mohan deity. It's a very nice pastime. Offered prayers to Madan Mohan, and a garland fell from the neck of Madan Mohan and fell right at his feet. So he took that as a sign. They want me to do this. And in the biography of Lord Chaitanya's life, his humility comes out this way. I am totally disqualified to write about Lord Chaitanya, to use two expressions, poetic expressions, because he's a poet. Lower than a straw in the street, same as Lord Chaitanya used, and more sinful than Jagai and Madhai. So what's my qualification? So that's what we heard yesterday from Prahlada to Lord Nrsingadev. How is it that I can be protected given I'm born in this Rakshasa, demoniac family, and all those tendencies are in me? And how am I going to be protected from those tendencies? How am I going to think of you? How am I going to glorify? There he is glorifying him like anything. But it's his humility. But it's humility that doesn't check service. Depression and low self-esteem and those other modern things, that's material. He wasn't on the material platform. He was on the spiritual platform. And one who's on the spiritual platform has qualities. And one of those qualities, Haribol, good to see you again. And you too. You're 11 years old now? He just turned 11. Okay. On Ekadasi Day, right? It's today. Today. Happy birthday. We met yesterday. Unforgettable meeting. I can't wait till you become a senior Prabhu and telling nice stories about Prahlad Maharaj and Lord Chaitanya and everything. Which do you like better, Srimad Bhagavatam or Chaitanya Charitamrita? Okay. Bhagavatam. Okay. One day. Some years later, I'll ask you the same question. And you'll have a nice answer, I'm sure. Okay. So that's what we heard yesterday. The humility, abject humility of the most qualified person, Prahlad Maharaj. And now comes our topic for today. text 42. It's just one verse. Yesterday we covered 3, and today is just one verse. And all this background is just background. But I hope you are feeling enthused to hear the sagacious words of little Prahlada. You're especially kind to your devotees. Here's the verse with some color words. We're going to spend some time with these words in color. Priyajanan, Anusevatam Naha, and Akila Guru. Here's the translation. Oh, my Lord, O Supreme Personality Godhead, original spiritual master of the entire world. What is the difficulty for you who manage the affairs of the universe in delivering the fallen souls engaged in your devotional service? You are the friend of all suffering humanity. And for great personalities, it is necessary to show mercy to the foolish. We discussed this a little bit yesterday about Vasudeva the leper and Prabhupada and his arrival prayer in Boston. Remember that? Therefore, I think that you will show your causeless mercy to persons like us who engage in your service. So this is continuing from verse 41 yesterday, the merciful nature, compassionate nature, compassion upon all living beings, and he was appealing that please give your mercy to all of us, not just me, but to all of us who are in this most unfortunate circumstance in the material world. He's appealing, when an exalted Vaishnava makes an appeal to the personality of Godhead, that benefit for the person or persons unto whom the appeal is being made, benefit goes to them because the personality of Godhead follows the love of his devotees. His mercy follows the love of his devotees. So when the devotees are very elevated and they're very compassionate, like Prahlada, he's appealing to the deliverer of all souls to deliver all these fallen people. All the fallen people. So let's go forward. Krishna is Akila Guru, the Supreme Person, the Supreme Spiritual Master of the entire creation. Bhava, Sambhava, Lopa Hetaho. Krishna who manages the affairs of the universe. So he's standing before Lord Nrsingadev. We discussed this a little bit. He has an understanding of the nature of Vishnu Tattva. Lord Nrsingadev is a manifestation of Vishnu Tattva. And he, Vishnu, manages the affairs of the universe. Or Krishna manages the affairs of the universe. Artha Bandho, Krishna, the friend of the suffering living entities. It's one of those philosophical questions. If God is very kind and very merciful, why did he create suffering? Because he could have created a place where there's no suffering, right? Because he's all powerful, he can do what he likes. So why did he create places where people suffer? Huh? Yeah. This goes back to I discussed it yesterday, but the very first 4 chapters of the entire 7th canto is a discussion on the topic of, is Vishnu partial? It looks like he's partial. Yes to the devotees and no to the non-devotees, and the non-devotees suffer like anything. And the devotees may undergo some tribulation, but it's an act of kindness. And so he shows kindness to the devotees. Looks like partiality. But it's because if those who desire darkness, they get it. Those that desire light, they get it. There's a process, and he gives the system. It's just like exactly in Bhagavad Gita. In the beginning of creation, I sent forth generations of men and demigods, and with them this process of sacrifice. The Vedas, by which sacrifice, which means satisfaction of Vishnu, it's part of the user's manual. You get a little device and it tells you how to use it. You get a form of life and here's how you use it when it's done properly. When you get a cell phone, you don't use it to crack walnuts. You just use it for other things. There's a purpose and there's a way to use it to do things that a nutcracker isn't what it's meant for. So people don't know what the human form of life is meant for and they make a mess. So but he's the friend of the suffering living entities, but he created the suffering. He didn't. He created a situation, and because of rebelliousness, they're put into a situation to teach them, excuse me, but rebelliousness isn't good for you. It's not good for anyone. He's the friend. And he's looking at Lord Nrsimhadev, and all around the room, there's disembodied servants of Hiranyakashipu strewn all over the place because they attacked him, and he stopped them. Krishna is capable of giving shelter to everyone at all times. Little sharing. It's off topic, kind of, but it fits the image on the screen. At the end of the month of May, there's a national holiday every year, Memorial Day. And for many devotees, probably even here, you'll go to the Sadhu Sangha retreat in Orlando, and it's being promoted like anything. But even before the Sadhu Sangha retreat started, or Sadhu Sangha event started, for now I think it's 38 years, we've been going to Gitanagari farm, mid-Pennsylvania, many devotees, maybe not from Phoenix, but from all over the country, go to Gitanagari, have a retreat. So this year, the retreat topic is Krishna in Braja. And one of the headline guest speakers is Garuda Prabhu, the Prabhupada disciple. I was living in the Boston Temple as the regional secretary. This is later in my devotional life, with Niranjan Swami as the temple president. And Garuda was doing his PhD in Sanskrit at Harvard University. So he's a Harvard University PhD graduate. He's a smart guy, and he's really funny. And he wrote 2 books about Krishna in Vrindavan. So he's going to give 4 classes from his book and sell his books. Krishna in Vrindavan. Specifically, it's going to be, one of the books is about Krishna's Rasa Leela. And I asked him, can you, not too high, please, because there's going to be some new people in the audience. And he said, I know how to do that. Are they from India? I said, maybe 80%. Okay, no problem. I know how to speak in such a way that it's reachable and it's not too high. But for people that have been around for a while, it can be very satisfying and fulfilling. It's okay. I trust him. And so one of the topics that I'm going to be presenting is Govardhan Leela. Govardhan Leela is a very nice pastime. And it's in Vrindavan, of course. And that's what this prompted me. So there are different descriptions of how Govardhan Hill came to Vrindavan. And here's a very nice description from Padma Purana of how Govardhan Hill ended up in Vrindavan. And here's the Padma Purana description. It doesn't say where, but there was a Brahmana whose name was Govardhan, and he was worshipping Krishna. And when he was worshipping Krishna, Krishna was very pleased. So Krishna came before the Brahmana, disclosed his form, and said, "My dear Brahmana, you please me very much. Please ask a benediction." So he said, "Yes. The benediction I would like is, I would like you to place your feet on my back, not head, on my back." So according to Padma Purana, Krishna consented, and the Brahmana Govardhan became Govardhan Hill in Vrindavan, Padma Purana. And because Krishna knew that the Brahmana was sometimes hungry and sometimes thirsty, he made an arrangement that there would be a big anukut, and the Brahmana could be then fed the anukut procedures day after day after day, and then in case he was thirsty, torrents of rain to come and quench his thirst. He's capable of doing anything. Krishna's capable of doing anything. I mean, that's not our normal explanation, but it's pretty interesting. Capable of giving shelter to everyone at all times. There's another nice story of how Govardhan reached Vrindavan. It's quick. It's from Adi Varaha Purana, and the person who referred to it is Narayana Bhatta Goswami. So unless you've been in Vrindavan, you won't know who Narayana Bhatta Goswami is. He lived around the same time as the six Goswamis, but he's not in our line, so we don't hear so much about him. But he wrote a book of the pastimes that took place in as Rupa and Sanatan were given the assignment by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to restore places of Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan, because they were lost. This Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, he also did the same thing. So he wrote a book on these pastimes, and one of those pastimes is taken from Adi Varaha Purana. And Adi Varaha Purana describes, so I'm putting my hand up in the air like this, Hanuman got permission from Ramachandra to go all the way to Utkal, which was in northern parts of India, to help bring mountains to build the bridge in Lanka, to get to Lanka. But he heard a voice from the sky. As he was carrying Govardhan, he heard a voice from the sky saying, no need for bringing more mountains anymore. The bridge is completed. So Hanuman placed the Govardhan mountain down in Vrindavan. And Govardhan mountain said to Hanuman, "You cheated me, because I was looking forward to having the lotus feet of Lord Ramachandra benedict me and touch my body." And Hanuman said, "Not in this lifetime, but in the next lifetime, next appearance of the personality of Godhead, he will decorate you, not just his feet, but all the residents of Vrindavan and all the cows. And he'll lift you up and hold you in the air with his hand." So Govardhan was happy because he was ready to curse Hanuman because Hanuman deprived him of Ramchandra's lotus feet. And then Ramchandra said, now, no, so Hanuman came back and told him what happened. This Govardhan Hill was going to curse me. So Ramchandra said, this is from Adivaraha Purana. Ramchandra said, not only that, this, that, and the other thing, I'll, in my form as Krishna, I will give great benediction to Govardhan Hill, my dearest of all devotees. Adivaraha Purana. He's capable of giving shelter to everyone at all times. Krishna extends his shelter through his devotees. All of this is in the verse and the purport, Prabhupada's purport. Priya Janan Anusevatam Naha. Prabhupada's explanation of this from the purport. The personality of Godhead is very favorable to devotees who act according to the instructions of his own pure devotee. So all you have to do is find a pure devotee, right? And then all you have to do is follow the instructions of. And the bell rings. The personality of Godhead will then favor you. Just find a pure devotee and follow their instructions. And the transforming effect of one pure devotee was astounding, unprecedented in the history of the world, what Srila Prabhupada achieved. Without the list, you can read his biographies. It's awesome. Awesome. What he accomplished in a short period of time. Not in the history of world religion, it never happened. That one religion covered the whole world in such a short period of time, 11 years. The Crusades and this and Muslim and this and that. So hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years with wars and, crusades and battles and this and that. Prabhupada was so powerful. And it's still going. I heard it's still going right here in Phoenix. More persons getting a chance to hear the holy name, getting a chance to take part in the Sangha of the Vaishnavas, getting a chance to see the beautiful forms of the deities. Let's see what Nrsimha Chaturdasi is like. Probably going to be mobs of people. Let's see. The mode of being the servant of the servants. This is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Of course, he's another form of the Lord, or as we heard, the form of the Lord is in this age of Kali. Gopi Bhartur Padakamalyor Das Das Anu Das. That's Mahaprabhu's description of what's his position. I'm not a Brahmana, I'm not a Vaishnava, I'm not a Shudra, I'm not a Grahastha, I'm not a sannyasi. If you're not all these things, then what are you? This is who he is. These are some nice quotes. Because of time, I've been telling stories, I'm going to keep moving. Evam parampara praptam imam rajarshayo vidur. But by disciplic succession, one may come into the proper position aligned with our real identity as opposed to something else, mistaken identity. Narottam Das Thakur. Tandera Charana Sevi Bhakta Sanivas. Let me serve the lotus feet of the devotees of the Lord. Let me live with the devotees, life after life. Janme Janme Hai Eavilas, my one desire. More references saying the same thing. This is similar. Narottam Das Thakur. O Vaishnav, O my Lord, O Vaishnava, please consider me your dog. Baladev Vidyabhusan. Krishna is the property of his pure devotee. And if we take shelter of a pure devotee, he can deliver Krishna very easily. Now, I brought the Bhagavatam with me. Should I? It's 10 minutes to 8. There's a lot of people here, so we'll probably have some discussion. Maybe at the end, if there's time, I can read the verse and purport. Nice, it's nice to hear directly from our founder, Acharya. Flip a coin. Should we just have questions and answers, or should I go straight to the Bhagavatam? Bhagavatam. Okay, you both want. Here we go. Text 42. I read the translation. Here's the Bhaktivedanta purport. Here the words Priya, Janan, Anusevatamna indicate that the Supreme Lord Personality Godhead is very favorable to the devotees who act according to the instructions of his own pure devotee. In other words, one must become the servant of the servant of the servant of the Lord. If one wants to become the servant of the Lord directly, this is not as fruitful as engaging in the service of the Lord's servants. This is the direction of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the same reference that's on the screen. Gopi Bhartur Padakamali or Dasa Dasana Das. One should not be proud of becoming directly the servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Rather, one must seek a pure devotee, a servant of the Lord, and engage oneself in the service of such a servant. The more one becomes the servant of the servant, the more one becomes perfect in devotional service. A little notice. There are many, many, many places in this Prahlad Maharaj story and other places also, I've been noticing it. Perfection of life, perfection of devotional service. That's like the appeal. It's like, put that in your GPS. If you want to get to the destination, what's the destination? Perfection. That's high. Can we attain perfection? Really? Yeah. And this is the method. This is also the injunction of Bhagavad Gita. Evam parampara praptam imam rajarshavadu. One can understand the science of the personality of Godhead simply by the parampara system. Then Narottam Das Thakur. Tandera charana sevi bhakta sanivas. Let me serve the lotus feet of the devotees. Let me live with the devotees. Narottam Das Thakur said one should aspire to be a servant of the Lord's servant life after life. Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Oh, my Lord, O Vaishnava, please consider me your dog. I didn't get the acronym correctly. One must become the dog of a Vaishnava, a pure devotee. A pure devotee can deliver Krishna without difficulty. So all these references are from that purport. Kindly give me your shelter, my dear Lord Krishna. Kindly give me your shelter of your very dear devotee, so that I may engage in his service, and you may then be pleased. Shh. Final paragraph. Another significant point in this verse is that by devotional service, Prahlad Maharaj does not want to benefit alone. Rather, he prays to the Lord that all of us, fallen souls in this material world, may, by the grace of the Lord, engage in the service of his servant and thus be delivered. The grace of the Lord is not at all difficult for the Lord to bestow. And thus, Prahlad Maharaj wants to save the whole world by spreading Krishna consciousness. I mean, this is the kind of way that Prabhupada liked to speak about Prahlad Maharaj. And when he would speak about it, the tone of his voice would go up, and the enthusiasm of his voice. I mean, it was Prahlad Maharaj touched Prabhupada's button also. He felt greatly inspired by this mood, and similarly the mood of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and our successor, the Acharyas, and in Bhakti Siddhanta, and his father Bhaktivinoda Thakur saved the world. Save the world. And we're a little people. Save the world. But the empowerment of the personality of Godhead goes to one who thinks of that well-being, and they by that method become pure, and then the impossible becomes possible. Expecting miracles or expecting extraordinary mercy when we're not qualified, but because in pursuance of those that have that qualification, mercy comes, and who knows? It happens again and again. Probably most of us in this room have had the experience of something very unexpected happen, either through us or through someone that we know, and some transformation, something amazing happens. In reciprocation with the Lord to help us understand, He's there. He's there for us. He wants our love. And sometimes, the story I told yesterday. Remember that picture of the photograph of Lord Nrsingadev, Ugra Nrsinga in Mayapur, and his eyes reddish in color around the pupil, and the brahmachari, little simple brahmachari, worshipping the deity, heard 3 times, "Return my eyes," in a room that you can't get in. Lord Nrsingadev was speaking to him, and who knows what's in his heart today, that same little brahmachari. But the reciprocation is quite amazing and quite personal. Wow. Like a zoo or something. Okay. Any discussion? We have a portable microphone? She had one before, so you probably still have it, right? Yeah. Yes, right, Rupanuka, right over here. He's going to turn it on. Let him do. Go ahead.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Whoa!
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Maharaj, for the wonderful pastime information. And my quick question is that, Maharaj, just as we as readers, I mean, with your experience, you are able to, take so many things and come to one conclusion and one understanding, like how you're quoting the reference of different acharyas or different, devotees in that same pastime of Govardhan. My question is that now, because of the ecstasy of the devotees that are meditating on this particular pastime, do they intend to remember the different kalpa pastime that they, talk in a different place differently? Or how is that happening?
It depends on the devotee. Sometimes it's just like, And they're not going to remember the detail, which shastra, which kalpa, and which this and which that. It's just, reverential. And then there, so different devotees are different. Some devotees want to know, where's that reference from? Where's that, so there's that kind of devotee. So there's different kinds of devotees. And some just want to relish it.
So it might be of the kalpa different also, is it?
It might be what?
A difference of a kalpa when the Lord was part of
No,
performance.
commonly, that's the explanation. Different kalpa, different days of Brahma, kalpa beta, for the people that's not so familiar. There, in different days of Brahma, there's different things that happen. Prabhupada's, our acharyas discuss it, but the way that Prabhupada presents it is very simple. The pastimes of the personality of Godhead are like a spool. That was his phrase. And the spool comes out, during Prabhupada's time, movies were on the reel-to-reel type. So then there's like frames, pictures in the past. So that's the spool that he was speaking about. That's my understanding. And so in different days of Brahma, because variety, Prabhupada's expression, variety is the mother of enjoyment. So when the Lord appears, there's variety, sometimes and sometimes. But the theme is there. The theme is there because of rasa. And he's relishing, and his devotees are relishing, and he's relishing with his devotees. So the theme is there, but there's details that are different. So the spool has variety, but it's essentially the same. So, it comes out a little bit this way, comes out a little bit that way, in different days of Brahma. And that's, for those of us that are accustomed to hearing different things, because some, the Bhagavatam is very simple, very straightforward, and it's the best. It's the best. It's it's Supreme Court. Difference of opinion, you go to the Supreme Court. That's it. But it doesn't mean that the other presentations have no place. They have their place. But, the superlative, conclusive decision is the Supreme Court, or the Srimad Bhagavatam. So, different days of Brahma, and thus different pastimes with little variation, but the theme is essentially the same. The theme of rasa and loving dealings. Okay. Anyone in the back? We're just passing it around. Okay.
For Srila Prabhupada.
Just keep going. He's
Srila
adjusting the dials.
Srila Prabhupada's purport, because even yesterday's verse also, when we saw that the description was given about the 3 yugas, but Srila Prabhupada explained how really it is about also Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
How really what?
About Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also, he explained the full thing about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu being Channa Avatar. And even today, because if you just look at the verse and the translation, but when Prabhupada is explaining how it is so important to be a servant of the servant of the servant. So I'm just an appreciation that if we just went through the verse and the translation, we will not really get the description or the essence of what it is, of how Srila Prabhupada explains everything.
And let me add to that. The principles in the Bhagavatam are elaborations on the same principles that are simply presented in Bhagavad Gita. So the graduate study doesn't teach new things, it's just a further elaboration on the undergraduate study level, and then more and more. So in his purports, he would, like the first canto Bhagavatam, he wrote in India for bringing to the West. And he doesn't have all these references. But now by the time he gets to the 7th canto, if someone's with him up to the 7th canto, he's giving additional references and additional references. Shh. And not everybody knows what those are. It's okay. But it's authoritative, and in course of time, as one comes to know what this is and that is, Narottam Das Thakur and Bhaktivinoda Thakur and so forth, it enriches the flavor of what's there in the Bhagavatam. And supposing you don't know all those things, that's okay. The theme comes out. And that's the Bhagavatam. It's so relishable. I'm adding to what you said. Okay. Anyone else? Yes, over here. Here comes the microphone. And I hope it doesn't scream.
Maharaj, thank you for a nice class. I had a question regarding how Prahlad Maharaj is
Where's the speaker? Oh, you're right in front of the speaker. Feedback. You got a good, strong voice, right? Go ahead.
saintly association.
Yes.
So trying to understand. Spiritual master or any other particular.
You're trying to understand the words that Prabhupada used. Why did he choose these words instead of those words? What's he referring to when he says spiritual master? That's what you're asking? Saintly association. At different times, different nomenclature is used. This is if I understood your question correctly, at different times, different nomenclature is used. Depends on the circumstance, depends on the audience, depends on variables. But the essence, sadhu, spiritual master, elevated souls, so different nomenclatures are used. Mahat Seva. It's directional. So those that are highly elevated, they've taken shelter of the personality of Godhead. They're well conversant in the scripture. Their speaking and their behavior and their character are all the same. So those are the persons he's speaking about. And one should seek such association and try to serve such association because that's pleasing to the Supreme Person. So the nomenclature is not so critical. The direction is critical. Okay, looks like we're just passing the microphone around. I think we're done. Thank you very much, and we'll see you again tomorrow, Krishna permitting. Srila Prabhupada ki, Prahlad Maharaj ki, Lord Nrsingadev ki, or Premanandi.